Thank you very much indeed for being with Al Jazeera. So there's been an incredible amount of confusion about what's been happening with a lot of ad hoc decisions. What is your understanding about the status of the green cards right now? Do you have any more clarity?
Yes, well, this executive order is being challenged as illegal by many lawyers across the country because it violates international law and it violates American law, which, for example, requires that anyone who presents themselves at the border has a right to a hearing to determine if they have a credible fear of persecution, so in other words, to apply for asylum. There are also laws in place that give due process rights to immigrants with valid visas to be able to, at the very least, have a right to contest their attempted removal or denial of entry.
In terms of the legal proceedings and what options are currently on the table, can you explain what options some of these groups have now against Donald Trump's policy?
Right. Well, you have many lawyers, including lawyers from the American Civil Liberties Unions and immigration lawyers, who are filing habeas corpus, petitions for habeas corpus, so that those individuals who are being detained at airports can go before a judge and challenge this executive order, or at least the effect of this executive order. And courts across the country, in New York, in Massachusetts, in Virginia, and other states have effectively issued temporary restraining orders that have ordered Customs and Border Patrol, which is part of the Department of Homeland Security, not to remove any of those individuals and ultimately to give them a day in court. And one thing that's particularly problematic is the religious animus that animates this executive order, where it's quite clear that Trump is targeting Muslims.
Now, some have argued that the executive order is not exactly unconstitutional, but it's really down to the way that this was enforced that made it unconstitutional. Could you break that down for us?
Well, there are lawyers who plan to file a lawsuit claiming that it is unconstitutional and that may, in fact, violate the equal protections under the Fifth Amendment and also procedural rights and substantive due process rights. And there are also arguments to be made that it violates certain statutes, particularly in the Immigration and Nationality Act. So I don't think we should take for granted that these executive orders, at least the way in which they're currently framed and the way in which they are enforced, is constitutional. But again, one other problem that's associated with its enforcement is the stigmatizing effect and the vilifying of Muslims abroad, but also in the United States. Many Muslim Americans have family members who are coming to the United States to join them, who also live here and are on green cards or maybe coming to visit or have student visas. And so this is the president using the bully pulpit and the highest power of the government to essentially say that Muslims are not welcome in this country.
And just generally, I'm going to ask you very quickly, how much support really is there for this ban amongst Americans?
Well, as we've seen with the protests across the country, there isn't as much support as Trump seems to believe that there is. And this is really a historic moment for America and for the exercise of free speech and assembly, because there have been protests at airports across the country, of which I was participated in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, where we had over 1,000 people, at least on Saturday night, that were protesting this executive order. And there are protests on Sunday, and there are also scheduled protests on the weekend. So if Trump cares about popular opinion, then this is a very clear sign that he does not have a public mandate to engage in what is otherwise very American, which is the exclusion of immigrants and the exclusion of refugees, notwithstanding that this is the country that has over 2 centuries accepted those who are seeking, who are fleeing persecution.
All right, Sahar Aziz, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak to Al Jazeera. We appreciate it. Thank you.